He's now going to be gay, so characters are showing up more and more, and I think it's just, like you say, keep moving. The more exposure there is, the more people become desensitized, the more a mainstream audience gets more comfortable, and then seeing two guys walking hand in hand won't be so much of an issue.
I just have a quick question, just since you guys are a great source of knowledge. Is there a bisexual male character in mainstream right now? I have not seen that.
Probably would have been Captain Jack and
Captain Jack.
Captain Jack would be the villain we're going to.
Deadpool.
Deadpool's more kind of pansexual, isn't he?
Yeah, that's always,
I mean, he likes like pans and stuff.
and Wentworth Miller said he was playing Captain Cold as pansexual.
That's right, yeah. So I think we've all done a great job discussing the L and the G, but especially with you two, talking about representation. I don't think I've ever seen an ace character.
No,
I've seen we've seen some trans characters, but we don't have any ace anywhere.
No, I think even the ace community sometimes has a hard time just saying they're part of the community. I had to explain that to a couple people even after Orlando because I was like, these are my people. They are my people, but and I'm like, oh, you're not. What are you talking about? So during the last Fan X panel, I remember I spent like a couple of hours, I think, on TV tropes trying to find a canonical ace character, and I came up, I think, with like maybe one or two. So I'm still waiting for my representation, so that would be a nice thing.
I'd be very interested to know how they would do that with making it all about the sexuality piece, but at the same time bringing it up. Like, do you think they can do that responsibly?
They can do anything responsibly. I mean, why not? I mean, if we can live in a world where we're introducing humongous superheroes and, we're watching Game of Thrones and all of this, why can't we bring in an entire group of people that actually exist?
Right.
I'll write one for you.
Yeah. And maybe it's because, and this isn't, I'm saying this forgives it, but I think it's because people just aren't aware.
Yeah,
I mean, you look at anything in Hollywood, for the most part, there's always some deep romantic, sexy story going on. And you could still have a very romantic story, but you're not going to go to the extent that, with an ace character or something like that.
Mm-hmm. The ace community marched with Pride this year. I didn't get a chance to go with them, but I wanted to, which was awesome. I was very glad to see that happen. I think it's just going to be a lot of, like I said, it's a lot of preconceived notions, and I'm trying to make people understand what it actually means.
Definitely, yeah.
So would it look... Can I?
Go ahead.
What preconceived notions would you like to bust?
Well, as I'm getting older, more and more people have stopped saying this to me, but it's the whole, oh, you'll change your mind when you find the right person. It's like, okay, that's not how it works. And just trying to explain to people that this isn't a choice thing, just like being trans isn't a choice, just like being gay isn't a choice. It's just the way I feel. I don't feel anything that can be described as sexual attraction, so why can't that just be considered normal?
I agree. It is perfectly normal. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the same way that maybe I'm not attracted to redheads. Not that I'm not, but I love all the redheads. I'm using that as an example, but no, it's you have as part of you, and that's.
Yeah.
It's, again, growing up, I was always like, oh, if you could take a pill to become straight, would you do it? And I think a lot of gay kids or people in the LGBTQIA community, maybe when they were younger, well, at least when I was that age, because I'm old. So, yes, but now as an adult, I would never in a heartbeat go back and change that, because there's no way I'd be the same person. I wouldn't be here with you guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, so I think it's that whole, there is something wrong with you, and that's like the biggest message we can bring across.
Well, I told this story during the Fan X panel, and it was kind of one of those moments for me where I didn't expect the visceral reaction that I got. But when I first started trying to explain to my parents how I felt and that I identified as ace, my dad basically said, what did we do to break you? Which I never realized until I watched the audience react during that panel how awful that is. So it's completely awful. And also the whole like, oh, you identify as ace, were you raped or molested as a kid? It's like, holy crap, who asks someone that?
That's like, it's like, no, my name's Kaitlyn, hi. But that's all.
If that's what it took, then 1 in 6 people would be up here.
Yeah, that's a depressing idea.
Lucas, go ahead, I know you got something to tell us.
I'm actually gonna say that I don't like the idea of normalization. I think that because each of our groups has done so much to try to get to the point where we have acceptance from the rest of the community and the rest of the world as a whole, we very much created our own subcultures, much like the geek subculture, and we have a subculture within the geek and queer community that is geek and queer. And when you try to normalize things too much, you take away from all of the history and all of the things that are different. I am different from the average cis white male, the average person walking down the street. I celebrate those differences. I love those pieces of me, and I don't feel like I need to normalize myself. There are a lot of things that are normal about me. I have kids, I have a granddaughter, I love my family, and I have a 9-to-5 job that's fairly normal.
Wait, you're normal? I thought we discussed
But there are things about me that are not normalized, and I don't want them to necessarily be. It's okay that I'm different. It's not okay that people are not okay with that, and that's the piece. I don't need to move, they need to move, and it's not that I need to normalize myself, it's that people need to understand that it's okay for me to exist, and it's okay for you to exist, Yeah. And that has happened over the years with the gay community, and I think we have sort of normalized it, but we've gotten to the point where it's okay that the gay subculture exists by itself. And I don't need to go pretend to be that I'm anything like I'm not in order to make society accept me. Society needs to just accept me because there's nothing wrong with me.
Right. And I don't think that's necessarily saying that normalization means to no longer accept or see that there is something special and unique about you as an individual. But, it's like I go to these conferences, I go to writing conferences all the time. And here in Utah, I'll just be honest, I am the token gay author at all of these conferences. And it's funny because like the author community, very friendly, very accepting, very kind, and they're always talking to me, but they're so happy to have the gay token author that they can be best friends with, and come have lunch with us, and it's kind of nice to feel special, but at the same time, I'm like, I am not the only writer in Utah. What's going on?
I also want to say that besides trans representation, I think I'm probably not the only one up here, but I also represent the bisexual or pansexual community and the poly community, and those are voices that probably have less media representation right now, and I don't know how much, how much I can truly represent that, because that's not where I feel like my primary voice is, but those things are also pieces of me. Those are Laurel K. Hamilton, an author that's here, I moderated her panel yesterday, and she talked about that. She talked about both of those subjects, actually. That was kind of helped me get to the person that I am today, which is a whole different long story. But there was something about her that seems cis and white and hetero, and yet she's really not. I mean, she doesn't have anything trans going about her that I know of, but when she starts talking about the poly things, a lot of people really don't get that those really do represent relationships. It's not just some fantasy book trope, and so there's all kinds of different unique things about us that I don't think always needs to be this person is different because it's one big thing. Sometimes I'm different because I'm a Star Wars geek, and that's the most interesting thing about me, not that I'm trans or bi or poly.
Right.
Can I touch on this, this concept of being special versus normalizing, and acceptance to me seems like the underlying theme, but I'm going to take that back to something you said earlier. And, for me, I came out when I was 17, and I'm almost 50 years old now. So I've been out for like 30 years. Okay, so I've seen society change, and I remember my more furtive days back in college years being, gay rights and whatnot. But for me, it's safety. I want to be able to walk down the street hand in hand and not have people gawk, or maybe gawking and a little heckling is okay. But I'm glad you mentioned Orlando. I mean, that's the thing to me. When you mentioned concern and fear,
Yeah.
here I am, we're in 2016, and we're in a society where, an atrocity like Orlando can happen. That to me says society hasn't changed enough. I don't feel like I really need to be normalized so much that I'm nuts. It's not to me about being special. I just want to know that I'm going to be safe.
Yeah.
That's why I do martial arts, honestly. Because I'm terrified. 2 women, together.
Yeah, no, definitely, and like I said, it's walking down. It's gotten better now. I mean, a couple of years ago, some friends of mine were walking down the street in downtown Salt Lake and got called faggots. And thankfully, I wasn't there because I would have kicked their asses. So, or at least sat on them. So, in a couple of you guys, I really want you guys to get involved with this. So we're gonna do some audience questions really, really soon. So if you got some questions, I'm sure I got some back there thinking about them. Give me like 2 seconds. We'll hop onto that. I have an ethics question, and then we're gonna hop over to there. So. But I want to keep it short, like a minute or 2 each. So, but we open with Captain America, and I want to go back to the original X-Men versus Avengers. There's a scene where Magneto builds this thing into his helmet that he can go through everyone's mind and remove all traces of bigotry and hate and fear towards the mutant population. And he asks Captain America, he's like, should I use this or not? And Captain America responds, I'm afraid I can't make things any easier for you. See, I believe in the sanctity of the individual. A man should be free to make up his own mind, have his own thoughts, even if that man is a bigot. If you were in Magneto's shoes, and you had the ability to go through and remove, in that one instant, bigotry out of everyone's mind for the whole community, would you or would you not do that? And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer here. This is why I love these, like philosophy was my favorite class in college, because there really is no right or wrong answer. But is the overwhelming safety for the community and never having to worry about a pulse ever again is it worth that sacrifice?
I think
We're
that
going deep.
removes the question of humanity. We all have viewpoints that marginalize other people, whether we think we do or not. And part of getting to that point where we are a better person is realizing that we do, realizing why those things are wrong, and not wrong because they hurt other people, which they do, but because they hurt ourselves. Something I found myself saying in the last 24 hours was talking about an ex of mine that was really, really heavy. And I thought that I had no interest in somebody who was that much overweight prior to him. And I didn't love him despite his weight. That was part of what I loved about him. And it's the same thing with anything else that we probably think in our heads that we dislike about some group of people. And so, yeah, it would be great to never face that again, but why would you take away that chance for somebody to be a better person and grow and learn something about themselves? There are a lot better ways than that.
Kaitlyn?
Oh God, why didn't you pitch this to us in the chat?
Because then it's not fun, there's no surprise.
Oh, you're an evil human being.
I actually came up with it this morning, so that was like a last minute question I had.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Lucas. I'm a big believer in free speech and free will, and this ain't it's. Oh God, this is really hard to explain. Yeah, I pretty much agree with Lucas in the sense that you don't want to take away someone's ability to grow as a human being, and getting over prejudice and their various forms of bigotry. But not only helps that person grow as a human being, it helps us grow as the human race.
Much better said than I could have said it, so good job.
I'm going to take the other side and say I have to confess my ignorance to the storyline that you spoke about, but your recap gives me at least an idea of if that were me with, I guess, Magneto's helmet.
He was about to be put on trial for war crimes, and he had his helmet modified to where he could, with his mutant powers, because #comics, could make actually in this story it was all prejudice in general, so it was for mutants as well as everyone. So he could just eradicate it from everyone's minds.
I don't know, I would have to say, for myself, if somebody presented that to me and I was there, and it depended on the moment, especially if something like Orlando was running in my mind. When that happened, that took me back to being 17 and 18 again, and being afraid in downtown Philadelphia, being afraid out on the streets, being bullied, being a smaller stature person and just, feeling, intimidated by people around you. So, again, it goes back to like my concept of safety. And I don't think it's of it so much from the standpoint of taking something away, but pushing society forward a bit. Because not that many generations ago, slavery was still around, right? I mean, we still have some racial tension here, but we're a long ways off from where we were, okay, of seeing black people as less or as not even people, right? The N-word has pretty much been expunged from our dialogue here.
Unless you're Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, and even like when I was younger, it was very commonplace in work for me to hear the word faggot. Now the word faggot, you get pulled into human resources and you're disciplined. So society is changing, and so I don't think of it so much as that using Magneto's helmet as taking something away. It's just pushing society forward a little bit further to where I would kind of rather be to be safe, and then I don't have to take martial arts classes. Yeah.
I really like what Vinny said, just because I like the idea that it's pushing us forward, it's not taking away. I also agree with Lucas and Kaitlyn, just because I know for myself, for a while, I'm such a sensitive person, and I was really nervous once I started putting books out and having a talk that I would be susceptible and more able to just people attacking me for various reasons. So I studied hate speech, which is really awful, but I studied hate speech just because I just wanted to desensitize and kind of be prepared for what would come at me. And I started to realize kind of what you guys touched on, that it makes you reevaluate your own positions and your own morals, and you start to be a better person, because I definitely have my prejudices too. So I think, this is really tough. I really like what everybody said here, but I'm going to agree with Vinny only if it involves fast forwarding the evolution of our thinking. But otherwise, I would agree with, I want us to all continue to evaluate our own morals and be challenged to be better people.
Yeah, we all have our own, like you said, personal struggles,
Yeah.
things that we need to overcome, and
Again, better people.
Yeah, it makes us better people, but I like the idea of we can have a catalyst that gets us there.
I grew up in an extremely religious, extremely prejudicial, just hate-filled family. And on the one hand, I can see how nice that would be to just remove that from them. But on the other, I have to say, I've learned a lot from watching that. And watching other people be mistreated. And it's created something in me that I can't watch that. I can't let that happen anymore. And so part of me, I think I would lose out. I think I would have missed all that had I not. And so I have to say I'm kind of glad that people are bigots, because we can learn from it and then we can do better. I know they're never going to go away. I mean, the reality is humanity is what they are. But we are evolving, and I'm enjoying watching that evolutionary process as we do get better.
Cool. Who had some questions back there? I saw some hands. All right, we'll just make our way to the back.
It's less of a question, but more because of the crowd here at Comic-Con. I wanted to make sure that both our panelists and the audience knew about Peculiar, which is Utah's queer literary journal. And anyone out here who writes that wants to submit work, they're taking work for their next issue until September 23rd.
Nice.
But it's a great community.
And I want to just touch on that a little bit. Like I was saying, I feel like I'm the only author in Utah. Are there any writers out there? Look at that, that's great. So will you guys come up and talk to me afterwards? I would like to start putting together a network and group of Utah writers who are LGBT, and definitely work with anybody who wants to maybe work on their craft and move things forward. But I think we need that. I need that. So if anybody else needs that, come talk to me.
Okay, that is actually kind of addressing what I'm bringing up. I've been to real. So we've come a long way in specific representation. I brought this up last night. We went from like North Star, who was literally a fairy briefly, like literally a fairy. Rainmaker, who was Image's frontline, female. First she was lesbian, and she was confused. And maybe she was bisexual. No, lesbian, confused. And I was really heartened. At first I was actually kind of, oh, well, we've got trans, we've got ace. We don't have any bisexuals on this panel. And then got Lucas saying so, which for me, as someone who's literally been told by the community in bad terms that I was not.
You don't
welcome.
exist.
I don't exist.
I know
I'm
that